Hello, introverts, extroverts, geniuses, and those with medullas on the fritz. Welcome to Homage to Rush, as in Rush Limbaugh, the greatest talk man of all times. My name is Jack Willard. This is show number 6, and they said it wouldn't last. On the program today, well, let me tell you our subtitle first. Will Biden cause World War III before he leaves? Will he leave? We are waiting for January 20th, 2025. I'm so glad you're here. This is a short program, and we do hope you'll share it and spread the word. I'm committed to doing this project because I loved Rush, and I think that we live in vital times. I mean, things are looking up, but you just never know because we're in the last days, I believe. Do I think we are well into the last days? No, there's many steps to the last days. And then there's theological discussions about the last days. Now, this isn't a religious show, a Christian show per se, but we have no problems going to the word when we need to, when we feel led to. So, wow, what's going on? Some strange happenings. Yes, President Biden authorized the use of long-range missiles for the Ukraine that could easily reach well into Russia. I don't think they could reach to Moscow, but they're long-range missiles. So what's going on? Is this man trying to start World War III? Before he leaves office? Can't change administrations when you're in the middle of World War III, right? All kinds of thoughts come into your head, but we'll try to break it down. And I thought we'd go first to Ben Shapiro because he is pro-Ukrainian war, but I think he is starting to realize that now that President Trump is coming in especially, that we won't be going in that direction. As President Trump likes to say, I don't start wars, I end them. He knows how to use his mouth. He knows how to negotiate. He does that very well. And we've got an edge because Putin seems to like President Trump, although he wants to make it clear that that would be putting fuel on the fire if they were to shoot long-range missiles into Russia, even though he's killed 600,000 Ukrainians. It's a one-sided kind of thing. The first time I heard Ben Shapiro years ago, I thought I was listening to a pre-recorded Sean Hannity radio show, and they had somehow sped up the tape on accidentally. I thought I was hearing Sean Hannity on helium, but no, that was my first round of Ben Shapiro. He does talk fast, ladies and gentlemen. So let's listen to his take on things. He's been analyzing these issues for a long time. And he was somewhat of a war hawk who wanted us to continue giving money to the Ukraine, etc. But he has an important analysis here. Let's listen to Ben Shapiro.
President Biden, according to the New York Times, has now authorized the first use of U.S.-supplied long-range missiles by Ukraine for strikes inside Russia. Those weapons are likely to be initially employed against Russian and North Korean troops in defense of Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region of western Russia, according to officials. Mr. Biden's decision is a major change in United States policy. The choice has divided his advisors. His shift comes 2 months before President-elect Trump takes office, having vowed to limit further support for Ukraine. President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine did not confirm the permission to strike, but suggested on Sunday more important than lifting the restrictions would be the number of missiles used to strike the Russians. He said, today many in the media are talking about the fact that we have received permission to take appropriate actions, but blows are not inflicted with words. Such things are not announced. The rockets will speak for themselves. Again, he began to ease restrictions on the use of U.S.-supplied weapons on Russian soil, Biden did, after Russia launched a cross-border assault in May in the direction of Kharkiv. Officials said that while Ukrainians were likely to use the missiles first against Russian and North Korean troops that threatened Ukrainian forces in Kursk, Biden could authorize them to use the weapons elsewhere. Some U.S. officials say they fear Ukraine's use of the missiles across the border could prompt Vladimir Putin to retaliate with force against the United States and its coalition partners. That is unlikely in the extreme. Vladimir Putin sees Donald Trump coming down the pike. He knows both that Donald Trump does not want to surrender and also that Donald Trump does not want to prompt a full-scale war. And what that means is that all of this is likely to actually advance a deal. Again, one of the things that you are not seeing thus far is strong language coming out of President Trump or J.D. Vance condemning Joe Biden for doing any of this. Presumably because a rush of aid to Ukraine in advance of a deal is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. And by the way, the Europeans are coming to grips with this. The Europeans have known for years that this is the way this conflict is going to end. Which is why, according to the Wall Street Journal, President-elect Trump's push for peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine is finding growing acceptance in Europe as one of the biggest aerial bombardments of the war added to growing concern about Ukraine's ability to withstand mounting Russian attacks. Officials in many capitals recognize an off-ramp to the conflict appears increasingly necessary. Apparently, the increased alignment between Europe and the Trump administration over the openness for talks is a sharp turnaround from even 6 months ago. Back then, European officials looked in dread at the Trump team's pledge to end the war with swift negotiations amid fears the former president would cut a deal with the Kremlin at Ukraine's expense. Now again, I never believed that that was true. In fact, I'd spoken with European leaders who were much more sanguine about Donald Trump than the left-wing press in the United States. They were saying the world was more peaceful, people were more scared of Trump, and the deals that he was cutting looked more solid than anything like what Joe Biden has been doing.
Okay, a lot to unpack there. What does an end to this conflict look like? What does it look like in the big picture? I mean, much of the Ukraine is nothing more than a bombed-out shell. In our next edition, which will be later this week, I'm doing this on a Monday. Later this week, we will talk more about President Putin. If you remember the Tucker Carlson interview, Tucker went over to Russia. He was criticized for it by a lot of people, but he wanted the scoop. And, of course, it was done with a translator. And Putin he was late, first of all, about 45 minutes late. The first 45 minutes of the interview was mostly Putin speaking, giving Tucker Carlson a history lesson about the Ukraine and why he felt justified to invade the Ukraine. He talked about all the nasty things that had happened there and the things he didn't like about Zelensky, etc., etc. So President Putin waited for a weak, frail, indecisive leader in cognitive decline to say, yeah, this is the time. If not now, when? If not now, when? That was his thinking. But he approaches it from a point of view where he was completely justified to take back Ukraine. And he advised them at the beginning, do not fight, lay down your weapons. I think they still would have been killed if that had happened, you know. But Zelensky was putting anyone and everyone in there, including men well into their 50s going towards 60 years old. You didn't have a choice. He tried to block you from leaving the country if you were male, you know. You'd get to the Poland border and be turned back if you were an adult male, you know. So he acted very much like a dictator and has acted like a dictator in many ways, closing most of the Christian churches except the one branch that he agrees with. And if you look through the Zelensky background, you see he was no choir boy. He was no choir boy. He was very much a dictator, but not on the level of Putin, not on the level of Xi, not on the level of Kim Jong-un. They're a different kind of dictators. Now, here in America, we just avoided turning into a socialist country by the American vote on November 5th. We appear, because you just never know in this crazy time we live in, we appear to have dodged a bullet and we are on the upswing. I said, well, it'll mean more glory days for America, but eventually the bad guys will win for a season. In other words, the progressives will get their way as the baby boomers die off. But with J.D. Vance ready, the youngest vice president ever, I believe, he could spawn a movement that could continue past our demise if you happen to be in your late 60s like I am or older, you know. Of course, I want to live to 100. Every Christian wants to go to heaven. Not too many of them that are, have their health and what have you, want to die, even if they see the world becoming, like some kind of a video game, a Warcraft video game. They still want to kind of hang around and try to survive till it is clear that their time is up. But God decides our next breath. So we make our plans and God just smiles, as the late John Chancellor from NBC News. That's before NBC News lost their audience, sold out, etc., etc. I'm doing a little rush there just funning. I would never claim to have his talent or his knowledge. I never would. But I loved him so much, so I hope that qualifies me to pay homage to him in some ways. And in a future show, we will have some Rush Limbaugh. Perhaps the next one will have a clip of Rush as my Barnabas and Ben Stokes picture falls to the floor, if you happen to see that. Barnabas is a vampire. Yeah. So there we are. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I like what Ben says about that this is just a tactic and it's more likely to lead to peace. I know that President Trump has been talking to Putin. He knows that, as Ben says, that Trump is on the way and we will soon get the insects out of the pudding. The insects out of the pudding. It's been wild this week with Democrats, especially the old school Democrats that kept their mouths shut and let the progressives run over them like a steamroller, baby. It's been an interesting thing to see. Joe and Mika, Morning Joe and his wife Mika Brzezinski went to Mar-a-Lago and had a long meeting with President Trump, which they describe as cordial. Now, if you have seen the clips, who could watch Morning Joe, from the last few years? Years ago, I used to watch. He was a former Republican, loved Donald Trump. So did Mika. They were buddy. And then he turned on him like a rattler, man. He just turned on him because he thought, well, this will be good for ratings, and I know where NBC is going, especially MSNBC. And, if I want to keep my show and have great success, I just watched as the whole Morning Joe crew. Some that I was very surprised. John Meacham at the top of the list. I used to respect and honor John Meacham. I've got to hear what he's saying now. I bet it's changed a little bit. I used to think, man, this guy's smart. This is, he's right up there with some of the greatest speakers I've ever heard. And then I heard things coming out of his mouth, which would only uplift the progressives that were trying to destroy America. And I thought, is this John Meacham, or did the aliens get to him? And we're just seeing a shell that looks like John Meacham, but it's really, some kind of an alien presence. He has been possessed. If you watch Dark Shadows, you know what that is. He has been possessed by, and it isn't by Judah Zachary. Only hardcore Dark Shadows fans will know what the heck I'm talking about. But there's older people here, and you might remember the name Judah Zachary, who was just a head when we first saw him. Just a head that would eventually possess James Storm. Anyway, I thought that of so many people. Nicole Wallace. I mean, I always thought Rachel Maddow was a crackpot, but people like Nicole Wallace and even maybe Keith Olbermann. Now, Keith Olbermann has been down to Mar-a-Lago. Is this true? Keith Olbermann used to do a show on MSNBC before that guy that's there now. What's his name again with the glasses? I always forget because he's so forgettable. But Countdown with Keith Olbermann, it was pretty good. I was a conservative then, but I had to laugh at some of his choices for worst person in the world, and some of the things he would say. There was undeniable talent, but then he got eaten up by the progressives. He bought into their nonsense, and he went back to sports. They got rid of him on MSNBC, and he went back to sports, which he loves to do. He is a pompous ass, but some pompous asses over the years I have enjoyed very much. I suppose there was some pompous ass in the late, great Tom Snider, who I loved and adored, the Tomorrow Show. And we got to see him here in New York as the newscaster at 6 p.m. He did both for a while, and then he just did the Tomorrow Show again. But I mean, that show was dying at 6 o'clock, and they put Tom Snider in there, and he took it to number one, because he had that serious look when he did a newscaster. It's 6 o'clock. Here's what's going down on WNBC TV. However, news for New York. There was a gift. But then there was another gift when he would relax and do an interview. He could handle the head of the Ku Klux Klan like he could Dolly Parton. He was versatile, and he's one of those guys I will always, always miss. Tom Snider, like I miss Rush Limbaugh. So you've had Joe and Mika down at Mar-a-Lago. I think you've had Keith Olbermann down there. Oh, they come on now. I only saw one clip before air of Joe and Mika saying, well, we do think it's time for another direction, because we've heard that Comcast, it's kind of apropos that mistake, because they are past their expiration date, especially when it comes to MSNBC. Comcast is thinking of selling this place and firing our ass, and we'd like to do something to save it. We actually like getting up at 4 a.m. and coming in here with a bunch of people that you used to respect, like some of them you used to enjoy us, and we can't help but notice that the ratings are so far into the sub-basement that pretty soon we're going to have to send people down with jackhammers to find the studio, So we're thinking, it's time to kiss and make up with the Donald. Kiss and make up with the Donald. We realize now that, the progressives went way too far and we let them. This is what we're hearing from a number of people. I don't know if we're ever going to hear it from Rachel Maddow or Joyless Reed. I don't think she's capable. She's got so much hate in her heart. I don't find hate in her heart. I just find her silly. I find her like Whoopi and the other woman who played a part. Sunny Hostin played a part in the downfall of Kamala Harris when she asked Kamala the question, would you do anything different than what Joe Biden did? And she paused with that blank look of fear on her face and said, I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything. And Sunny Hostin says she knew right there that she had caused a major problem for the Harris administration. So we got past. We are not going to have an empty suit in the Oval Office, and that's wonderful. I don't know what you do when you can't speak. You can't make money on the speaking tour circuit. Nobody wants to hear you. Nobody's going to buy your book, I don't think. You know, you're not Hillary. You're sure not Bill Clinton. You're sure not Obama. You're sure not Michelle Obama, you know. What do they think now? And what did they say behind closed doors? What do you imagine, America, and those of you watching in other countries, what do you suppose we would find if we had tapes of what Obama really thought and what Michelle Obama really thought and what Jill Biden really thought of Kamala Harris? It would be great. It'd be great. I'll put that on the pay-per-view. That's what I would do if I were them. You make yourself millions, you know, make yourself millions like that fight on Netflix this past weekend that kept freezing, right? I didn't buy it. You know, I was happy to see the clips at the end of when it was all said and done. It was great to have President Trump attend a big fight the next night at Madison Square Garden. I don't even know the fighters' names. You know, I'm not really into boxing, but I did watch Tyson in the past. I saw him bite off a piece of Evander Holyfield's ear. And I did watch Ali. I got to see Ali when I was out in Hollywood. I had gotten my tickets for the Merv Griffin show, and I was walking up towards Hollywood Boulevard on Vine, and I see this beautiful multi-color, I think it was cream and brown Rolls Royce convertible pull up, and they put the top down. And who do I see climbing up on the back of the car but Muhammad Ali himself and his driver / bodyguard. And the sole reason he is stopping there and sitting up at the back of the car is he needed that. He needed the adulation, Muhammad Ali. So he would sit up there, and all of a sudden, guys in trucks would just stop their truck in the middle of Vine Street. And all the people would be coming from here and there, and the pretty ladies and guys, of course, and everything. And the bodyguard had this look of, he was rolling his eyes and said, "It's just another day for me. It's just another day for me." So he stood there a good long time and posed for pictures, what have you. Did he take a lady with him? I think he did, but I'm not positive. But that was an event to see. These were personalities that knew how to talk up an event. So just one of those amazing Hollywood times. I've told some of my Hollywood stories. I was living there for a year, visited a number of times on a Greyhound bus, a young lad looking to sin, looking to get into the movies. After a while, I had already done my first job in radio, and then I returned to live there for a year in 79 into 1980. And I said, I'll stay a year and see if I want to spend my life here. If after a year I don't feel that way, I'll leave, and that's exactly what I did. I had had enough. And besides, I couldn't get a job in radio in Los Angeles. It's the number 1 or number 2 market in the country. This is when radio was really powerful for music. You know, great DJs in LA. They weren't going to hire me, who had worked at a country bumpkin station in Fredonia, New York. Yet I would be hired by a legend when I came back to New York, cousin Bruce Morrow, who's on the radio at 89 years old on Saturday nights on WABC from his house now. So that's another story for another day, which I have told on our Worldwide Ramblings program. Saturday nights, 10 p.m. East Coast time, right here at the Virtual Church of the Disillusioned. Sometimes Thursday nights at 10 o'clock. We promo if we're going to do a Thursday night show, okay? So I wanted to tell you all about that. AOC has turned down the rhetoric. I'm about to have a heart attack here. I don't know what the rest of the squad is doing. Cori Bush will soon be out the door along with that idiot who turned on the fire alarm on tape and then lied about it. Goodbye. Oh, Corey was like the worst of the worst, you know. I think she was, yeah, worse than Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters at one time, you know, before the woke movement came along, was, she was a kind of beautiful when she was a young, was she a congressman first who became a senator? I don't know. But, she was more reasonable than she would be today. But now she'll be toning things down, too, I think. She'll be toning things down. She just got reelected and she's 86 years old, so this probably is her last term. So what does she care? Maybe she'll just go wild. She'll go wild. But AOC turning down the rhetoric, she removed her pronouns from her X page, ladies and gentlemen. What was it? Was she the, them? I don't even know how to use those in a sentence. I never figured that out. I've said this before. There's a wonderful person named Oliver at the CVS where I live here. I believe a biological male, but wants to identify as a female, and couldn't be a nicer, more efficient employee. And sometimes he, I don't know, likes to dye the front of her hair like platinum blonde, and she has thick hair, so it looks really cool. And I always say, "Oh, your hair looks so nice, Oliver." And she always thanks me, appreciates that, and just a great worker. We need more workers like Oliver. So if that's what Oliver wants to do, I have no problem with it. The problem I have is when you want to put a biological male in the swimming pool locker room. When you want to put them on the team, and when you want to endanger young kids, or just ruin it for female athletes that have worked very hard at their craft to possibly make it into the to the Olympics, and now they're going to be beaten by a biological male. So Representative Seth Moulton said, "I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a biological male." Amen. We're coming back to sanity, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming back to sanity. So we just have to hope. People say, well, it's the last day, so that's what's going to happen, maybe World War III. We don't know how far in to the last days we are. It's a very long process, the last days. It's not last seconds. There are many things, many steps in the last days. And for those who, want to talk about, there's the pre-tribulation crowd, the mid-tribulation, and the post-tribulation. It would be better if we just concentrated on our character and our decisions and what have you, our prayer life, and helping people, helping people. If you're available to help people, funny how you find people in your path that need a helping. What can you do for them? What can you do for them? Are you going to walk by somebody that's starving on a sidewalk and say, God bless you? Take your God bless you and put it where the moon don't shine. Faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. All right. Well, I want to keep the shows relatively short, but I'm so grateful for those who watch Homage to Rush. Something about Rush Limbaugh. We just had to reflect how sad it was that Rush did not get to see the re-election of Donald John Trump, or did he? From a higher perch. One of these progressive ding-dongs that lives right here in the same city I do, said, "Oh, Rush Limbaugh, he's in hell. What he said about women and what have you." You don't know what you're talking about. When Rush was coming up, he had a lot of catchphrases. He would always have catchphrases, but some of them were seen as offensive by overly sensitive people. He would talk about the most obnoxious liberals who would scream, yell, and spread their hate. He would call them feminazis if they were female, feminazis. And that worked very well for him, He knew then he had to separate himself from the crowd. He had to be extra special. So by the early 90s, when Rush was at his top weight of 300 pounds, he became an icon then. He became an icon. But by the time the 2000s rolled around, and by the time I was listening to Rush when I was in South Carolina, he was he was he was like a cake that had been baked to perfection. You know, there was no more baking time needed. This had been this way for a good while. But when he talked about the Clintons, which is what he was talking about a lot when I was in South Carolina and what have you, he had insights, and he had, without having a guest. You wouldn't have a guest unless it was the president of the United States or something. It was just him, sound bites, talking to Bo Snerdley, which is James Golden, who actually has a radio show on WABC. You can hear him on WABCradio.com at 4 o'clock East Coast time, Monday through Friday. He uses both names. I think it's the Snerdley Rush Hour with James Golden, that kind of thing. He's a black gentleman who's got a great voice, and so check him out at WABCradio.com, Monday through Friday at 4 Eastern. Rush would be proud. Rush would be proud, but how special it was, because we're going to play some excerpts from Rush in future editions of Homage to Rush, and you'll see how vital his comments, although some of them dated, how vital they still are. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by Christmas. It's a lofty goal. We're kind of a small fish in a big sea. But 9,300 is nothing to sneeze at, and it's growing. And so hit the like button if you like anything at all, and hit that notification bell. We don't just do Homage to Rush. We do pop-on shows, pop on to pop off, or we do the daily pop-off. I say the funny thing about the daily pop-off is I don't actually do it every single day. I do it a few times a week, but whatever. And then we do Worldwide Ramblings on Saturday nights at 10 p.m. East Coast time, Thursday nights sometimes at 10 o'clock. But we like to come on in odd hours when people aren't expecting us and add to our family here. We love to talk about Elvis Presley, yes. We love to talk about the man who looks like him, Pastor Bob Joyce from Benton, Arkansas. That is our golden ticket. That is our golden goose. But we don't mean to be obtruse. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but you also notice a thanks button here. There are patriots out there that loved Rush Limbaugh and maybe think that me honoring him is a good thing, and also keep his memory alive, as his wife Catherine Limbaugh does. And also that, we're spreading the conservative message. And we're keeping you updated on President Trump. I realize there's a lot of voices out there, but everybody has their angle, and I think I have my angle too. Who knows what'll come out of my mouth next? So if you can hit the thanks button for $1, $5, $10, $15, and I always have to say this because we have a monthly budget, a goal that we need to reach. It's not a very big budget. It would be great if we went over the minimum that I need, because that would reduce my stress and keep me more focused on doing the very best programs that I can do. I've been doing radio since 1977. Now I'm doing YouTube since late 2015. And, it's just become more and more successful, and I'm appreciative of that. But I have a small retirement, and I was a New York City peace officer for 19 years in a homeless men's shelter. And now I have cardiomyopathy, so I can't lift. The problem is mostly with my left arm because I have a defibrillator in my chest with my cardiomyopathy, and it's hooked up through my arm and goes up. But through Camzyos, a wonderful drug, it's an expensive drug. Thank God I have that New York City health insurance. I have no symptoms. I'm doing well. Praise God, I'm doing well. So if you have been so blessed, the best way is to hit the Cash App, really. which is lowercase letters, Media Guy 56, Media Guy 56, MEDIAGUY 56. If you don't have Cash App, you can load it from the Google Play Store, and you can use it for other things. People can send you money, and you can send family members money. I use it to pay my ex, for example. So I've never had a problem with it. So Media Guy 56, but if you want to hit the thanks button right here, that's great too. I don't get as much of it, but I'm appreciative. It helps my monthly total. It helps my monthly goal. So thank you for watching or listening if you're driving along and you're not looking too much at the screen, which you shouldn't be doing if you're driving. We thank you for listening, okay? JackTheFairGuy@gmail.com is my email. JackTheFairGuy, FAIR, like you're going to the carnival. JackTheFairGuy@gmail.com. Once again, thanks for watching, listening to Homage to Rush. My name is Jack Willard.